I will now call to order this August 5th, 2025 Clackamas County Board of Commissioners Land Use Hearing. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Certainly, Vice Chair Savas. Commissioner West.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Helm.
Here.
Vice Chair Savas.
Present.
A quorum is present, Mr. Vice Chair.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Clerk. Would you please introduce the item under consideration today? And I believe we're waiting for legal counsel to arrive as well.
That is correct, Vice Chair. But in the meantime, I can introduce the item under consideration today. Before the board today is files number Z0109-25 and Z0110-25, which are a comprehensive plan map amendment from rural to rural commercial and a corresponding zone change from rural residential farm forest 5-acre to rural commercial for a property located in Eagle Creek. Today's hearing will proceed in 3 main steps: presentation, testimony, and deliberation. First, the board will receive a presentation from staff about the files. Second, the Vice Chair will open a public hearing for the testimony. Vice Chair has established the order for public testimony as follows. The applicant will have the first opportunity to provide testimony. The applicant will have up to 15 minutes. Next, a representative from the Planning Commission will have the opportunity to provide testimony with 3 minutes to testify. Next, any public officials who wish to testify will have 3 minutes each. Next, representatives from recognized community planning organizations and agencies will have 3 minutes each. Lastly, all other members of the public wishing to testify will have 3 minutes each. In the third and final step of the hearing, the board will deliberate and either render a decision today or set a time to make a decision at a later date. Now, with your permission, Vice Chair, I will turn to Assistant County Counsel Caleb Hugel to make a legal statement, followed by Principal Planner Martha Fritzie to begin the staff presentation.
Thank you. This is a quasi-judicial land use hearing, which means several important things for those participating. First, the applicable substantive criteria are listed in the staff report. Testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward either those criteria or other criteria that the person believes apply to the decision. Second, failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the county and other parties an opportunity to respond precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. In addition, the failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the county to respond precludes an action for damages in circuit court on those issues. Once final, the decision on this application may be appealed to the Land Use Board of Appeals. At this time, I will ask the commissioners to disclose any ex parte contacts, bias, or conflicts of interest. Please indicate the nature and extent of the ex parte contact, bias, or conflict of interest, and indicate whether you intend to participate in or abstain from the hearing. If anyone wishes to challenge the impartiality of any commissioner, please clearly indicate your intention to do so in any testimony you provide.
I have no conflicts.
I have no conflicts.
No
Hold on,
conflicts.
I have no conflicts.
Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. Any questions? So,
Okay. Oh, I'm going to go ahead.
okay.
Okay. He was just getting the PowerPoint up. It should
All
be
right.
in front of you now. So good morning. I'm Martha Fritzie with the county's Planning Division, and I am going to just give a brief presentation about the proposal in front of you today for consideration. And as was mentioned, this is a proposal for a comprehensive plan map amendment from rural to rural commercial with a corresponding zone change from rural residential farm forest or RRFF 5 to rural commercial. Just note that this change wouldn't authorize any specific development, that any future development, if approved to rural commercial, any future development would be subject to design review. This is simply to change the designations of the property. So the subject site itself is about 2 acres. It's sort of roughly rectangular. It is along Eagle Creek Road in the Eagle Creek area, about 500 feet or less southeast of Highway 211. It consists of a single tax lot. The lot itself is pretty flat. It's currently developed with several structures and a large gravelled parking lot. There are not a lot of trees. There are no water resources, hazard resources, or any other overlays on this property. It's fairly straightforward. The area surrounding the subject site is pretty mixed. There's different zonings nearby, and to the south and west is rural industrial, and then further away is some farmland. East and north, there's more rural residential, a few historic landmarks, and there are some spots of rural commercial up in that area, primarily along Highway 211. The uses themselves are also pretty mixed. There's a gas station, an excavation company, several commercial and industrial uses, as well as residential uses in the vicinity. As is required for this type of application, a notice was sent on April 10th, and notice was sent to neighbors and interested parties and to the local community planning organization. The only substantive comment that we received after notice was sent was from our own county engineering. We asked them to take a look at the required traffic study, and in this case, they agree with the findings of the traffic study and a supplemental safety analysis that was provided, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. As is also typical, there are a lot of criteria that apply to a comp plan zone change. I'm not going to go into detail about all of these criteria and the findings. The detailed findings are found in your packet in the Planning Commission staff report. I'm just going to sort of hit real high level and some of the more relevant ones. And then, of course, if you have additional questions, I'm happy to answer them. And I'm kind of going to start with, we need to look at statewide planning goals, the comprehensive plan, and the county zoning and development ordinance. I'm going to talk about this all sort of in context of the county's zoning and development ordinance and the criteria specifically for a zone change. Some of you may have heard me say this before. There's 4 main criteria in our ZDO for a zone change. The first, none of them are particularly small, but the first is that the proposed zone change is consistent with the applicable goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. And so you have to look at the entire comprehensive plan. In this case, the relevant goals and policies were identified in chapters 2 and 11, which are really procedural, have been followed in this case. Chapter 5 really deals with traffic and transportation system, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then Chapter 4 are land use policies, and that is where the policies that are that direct the county as to where certain designations can be applied. And so in this case, we look in Chapter 4 at the policies for rural commercial, because that's what they're asking for. And they're pretty straightforward. There's not many criteria for rural commercial. It needs to be in a non-urban area, which this is, to provide necessary rural commercial services. And most importantly, the area has to have an historical commitment to commercial uses. And this is often hard for properties to meet, but in this case, it's pretty straightforward. There's a long history on this property, as evidenced through various land use applications. There has been a commercial and/or industrial use on this property since as early as 1974, and that's been documented. And then there have been several alterations of that use throughout the last several decades, and those are all documented. The most recent use that was approved on the property that's been there for a couple of decades is an RV and boat storage, which included some sales, some repair of RVs and boats, sales of accessories, and then even sales of wood pellets. And so it's pretty clear in this case that this property has an historic commitment to commercial uses. So that's the really big one. The second big criteria for a zone change is that if there is a need for public services, that those sufficient public services are available. In this case, because it's in the rural area, there's no public sewer or water. And so we really are just looking at stormwater management. We verify that those are available through this thing called a preliminary statement of feasibility, which is signed by the agency in charge of permitting the stormwater management. In this case, that was received, and so this criteria is met. And then the last two of the big 4 criteria in the zoning ordinance have to do with the transportation system, both the adequacy and the safety of the transportation system. And so the applicant is required to provide a traffic study that addresses the state's transportation planning rule, statewide planning goal 12, and our comprehensive plan, and to make a determination about whether this change would result in a significant impact to the adequacy of the transportation system. We also asked that they look at the safety of the transportation system, and all of that was done. And found that the proposed zone change would not have a significant impact on the adequacy or safety of the transportation system, and so no mitigation or additional conditions were required in this case. And as I mentioned, our county engineering, one of our county engineers took a look at the study and concurred with those findings. So, this is the second of 2 hearings. The first hearing was before the Planning Commission. It was on July 14th. There was no public testimony at that hearing, aside from the applicant. No real significant issues came up. The Planning Commission had some discussion about the property, but pretty quickly came to the conclusion that they unanimously, 9-0, would recommend approval of this application. Staff also finds that this proposal meets all of the relevant criteria for the plan and zone designation change, and also recommends approval as recommended by the Planning Commission. There are 2 potential conditions of approval listed in there. Should you approve it, those 2 really are pretty standard in a comp plan zone change. They're really directed to the county that we have to change our maps. There's really nothing that the applicant would need to do for those conditions of approval. So that is it for me. I'm happy to answer any additional or any questions if you have them.
Thank you. Colleagues, any questions? All right. If there are no more questions or comments from commissioners, we will move on to the public testimony portion. I will now open the meeting for public testimony. Clerk, would you please moderate the in-person and virtual testimony?
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair. First, would the applicant please come forward if present and introduce themselves? You will have up to 15 minutes.
Good afternoon, morning. My name is Peter Finley Fry. I'm a land use planner, nationally certified planner. And with me is my client, owner of the property. And what we'd like to do is introduce my client to you and then wrap it up. It's not going to take very long. And thank you for coming out today. Mark?
Yeah, Mark Wright, owner of the property. Grew up in this area, been here a long time, bought the property so we could utilize it for our business that we support the film and movie industry with. So there's a lot of filming in rural Clackamas County and out towards Mount Hood and in a lot of those areas, and we support that with movie trailers and various pieces of equipment. So this is what we want to utilize that property for. And we recognize that the property had been used commercially for a very long time, and when we bought it, we thought, you know, we probably need to rezone this to get it matching what it's used for. So that's why we're here.
So again, thank you for being here today. We support the staff report and recommendation. We support strongly the Planning Commission recommendation, unanimous. And again, we're here to answer any questions. I'm not going to go into detail because I think it's already written and the record is very solid. So we're here to answer any questions, make it short and sweet.
Looks like you're getting off scot-free.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, I'll ask if there's a representative from the Planning Commission present either physically or virtually who wishes to testify. Please come forward, introduce yourselves. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Commissioners, Vice Chair, staff. My name is Gerald Murphy. I go by Murph. I'm Vice Chair of the Clackamas County Planning Commission, and I'm here to introduce my fellow Planning Commissioner, Brian Lee. He wants experience testifying before the Board of County Commissioners during hearings. Here we go.
Good morning. I just wanted to relay to you the discussion that the Planning Commission had at our recent meeting. And what we talked about was the historical uses of the property and how since the 70s, it appears that that property has been used in a commercial setting by various different companies and organizations and owners. We also talked about how the state goals have been met, according to the staff report. We also talked about how the traffic report indicates that there's no safety issues with the proposed zone change. Very, very appreciative of the thorough packet from the staff in going through all the issues with us. And one of the things the Planning Commission really focused on was the fact that this zone change fixes a long-term problem for the property, that it provides stability and certainty for ongoing uses of the property and code compliance issues going forward for whoever may own the property for whatever uses going forward. So with that, it was a unanimous decision by the Planning Commission to vote to approve this decision with the stated conditions of approval. That's all we have.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you to you both. Next, I'll ask, are there any public officials who wish to testify? Seeing none, I'll now ask, are there any representatives from any community planning organizations or agencies that wish to testify, either physically present or virtually? Seeing none, finally, this is a call for any other members of the public who wish to comment, either in person or virtually. I see no other members of the public, either in person or virtually, who wish to speak today, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. I will now close the public testimony and we'll proceed to our deliberations. Any comments from my colleagues? Commissioner West.
The business owner, your name is, am I hear your name is Mark? Mark, thank you for doing business in Clackamas County. We appreciate that. Thank you very much. What a fun industry to probably be engaged in, involved in. I'll be voting yes in support of this today. I think it's a pretty clear cut. And it looks like we're correcting something that maybe should have been corrected previously. This is just aligning it with better zoning and land use, so thank you. And once again, just want to thank you again for being a business owner, job creator in Clackamas. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Helm?
Absent.
Okay. I too want to just say, Mr. Wright, thank you for trying to get your property in compliance with the actual usage. So that's a good thing. So we're happy with that. And I too am happy that you're doing business here in Clackamas County, and that we're here today to approve your application for the zone change. So colleagues, anything else? May I have a motion?
I move we approve file numbers Z0109-25 and Z0110-25 as recommended by the staff and the Planning Commission.
Second that.
Okay. Commissioner Schrader has moved to approve file numbers Z109-25 and Z0110-25 as recommended by the planning staff and has been seconded by Commissioner Helm. Any further discussion? Clerk, could you please call the poll?
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Helm.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0, Mr. Vice Chair.
Great. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. And I will now direct staff to draft an order reflecting this decision and include it on the agenda for the board's adoption at an upcoming business meeting. Council, do you have anything else from the board on this item at this time? Okay. On behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, thank you to everyone who joined us today, and we are adjourned.